have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Hey everybody, I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and you're on the lifeboat. You know what, people? It occurs to me, just once, I think we should maybe start the video, I don't know, 5 minutes early, so that you could see the back and forth between me and Mark before this thing goes live, because I think you'd really enjoy it. Honestly, I think the conversations that we have tend to be, well, it's good stuff. It really is. I think you would like it. Let's see who we got here. We got Miss Hermit Hill, Kentucky. Cemetery, good to see you. Charlie Murphy, Joanna W. Greta, not Greta, but Greta the other one. Stacy Michaels, Alan Ballantyne, my brother. Good to see you. Hey, the guy, he made it. Miss Hermit Hill, Kentucky. Yeah. And Flaming Jackson, there he is. Well, Flaming Jackson's here. We can get started. People, I want to do a quick shout out to everybody I just saw over on, hey, Angel, good to see you. Joanna W. I think I said hi, but we'll say hi again. To everybody that was just over on Chase the Heat, there was a little auction over there, and we got the plutonium bottle from the video where Johnny came out and told the world that he had a drinking problem. And if you ever seen that video, it's awesome. He was a year sober when he did that plutonium challenge. And that was the first that he came out and told everybody what was going on. Absolutely my favorite of all of my brother's videos, of my brother's 3,300 some odd videos or whatever he's done. Definitely my favorite. So pretty happy. Pretty happy we got that for the lifeboat. That's going to be something that we're able to post up here, which is good stuff. People, if you saw the thumbnail, and I know sometimes you come over here and you're just so accustomed to showing up at 6 o'clock, you may not always get a look at the thumbnail before we get rolling. But today's thumbnail is another one of these subjects that I think is pretty important stuff. The subject today is about self-talk. And we spend a lot of time here talking about ants, right? Automatic negative thoughts. And these are the thoughts that tell people you're not going to make it. You're wasting your time. There's no point in doing this. You know what? It's just going to end up like it did the last time. Basically, you start doing the I'm a loser thing. And as we talked about last night, it's a battle between the logic center of your brain and the part of your brain that would like to get fed drugs and would also like to, flood you with dopamine for doing the wrong thing. So what it does is it tries to talk you out of the ability, and it talks you out of the mission of staying sober. And these automatic negative thoughts we end up focusing on quite a bit here on the lifeboat because they really are the stumbling block. But I think I've come up short in talking about the other aspects of self-talk, because self-talk can be the worst thing in the world for you. There's no doubt. Automatic negative thoughts are our number one enemy when trying to remain sober. And on the flip side of that coin, one of the best weapons that we have is positive talk. Truthfully, whether you're saying it out loud and staring in a mirror, which I wholeheartedly believe in, especially when you first get sober. Daily affirmations, looking in the mirror, saying, you know what, I'm a warrior. I'm not going to slip. I'm not going to do this. I mean, the more you start to drill that into yourself, the more you're going to start believing it. But we've got a lot of new people on the boat, and there's a gentleman from New York that has joined us, and you may have seen him over on the Lifeboat page. He did a really interesting video where he started to talk about people. He said, when you talk to people who tell you the same things time and time again, and then they don't follow through, what do? I mean, it's human nature, right? If I tell you Tuesday at 3:00, I'll be over there, we're going to help you move that couch, right? And I don't show up, and you call me on it, and I say, don't worry about it, because I'm going to be there Friday, 3:00, we'll get that couch moved. No big deal. About the third time that gets rescheduled, you're just going to find someone else to do it, right? Because I can't be counted on. And not only are you going to reschedule and get someone who's going to help you actually get it done, I'm going to get filed away in the I can't trust that guy category, right? You're just going to say, if it happens, again, I'm certainly not calling Tommy, right? Because that dude doesn't do what he says he's going to do. Well, an interesting thing happens as addicts. When you continue to tell yourself the same thing day in, day out, believe it or not, people, you can start to doubt yourself. You can start to realize that, you know what? It's just talk, right? How many times over the course of your life as a drug addict or as an alcoholic do you say to yourself, you know what? I'm going to quit on Tuesday. For real. This is the last paycheck I'm going to spend on dope. This is the last time I'm going to go out and do this. This is my last hurrah. You know what? After today, I'm never doing this again. We keep setting these goals or drawing lines in the sand, and then we step over them. And it's a continual thing that we do again and again and again. And believe it or not, people, you're going to do the exact same thing as you would do to the guy that tells you, I'll be there on Wednesday to move that couch. You're going to get to the point where you don't believe yourself, and those words start to mean nothing. And this cat from New York made a good point. You know what? You're better off just not doing it. Seriously, if you're not ready, stop saying you are. If you're not ready to quit, don't say you're ready to quit. Just be that guy, be that gal. If this is it, and you're gonna continually stay in that life, and you're going to abuse drugs, there is really something to be said for being honest with yourself. But the thing is, how many times do you actually utter these things out loud? How many times over the course of your life did you say, all right, this is it, I'm going to quit on Friday? It's self-talk, right? It's what you're doing every day, talking to yourself. And we've talked about this ad nauseum on the boat, 60,000 individual thoughts a day, right? What is a thought? A thought is you talking to yourself in your own head. Is that not what a thought is? I mean, sometimes it's things like, oh, you know what? I'm out of milk. Probably need to, swing by Walmart. I got to get that. And you know what? While I'm over there, the dollar store is right next door. I can buy cat treats. But these are the kind of things that go on all day long, every day in your head. If you start to take that automatic thought process, if you start taking that inner monologue that every single person experiences every single day, and you start doing something positive with it, you have the ability to rewire yourself. As I said, we got a lot of new people on the boat. And today, in the comment section, somebody that was talking and said, you know what, up to this point, I'm sober. I'm proud. I've made it this far today and I haven't used. And my response to him was, of course you haven't, man. You're a warrior, right? You're not going to use. And it's a great thing to say, but you know how much more power it would have if that individual said that to himself, I am a warrior, right? I am not going to fail today. I am not going to use people. When I got sober, when I started the process, as I've said many times, I was incarcerated when this started. But after a period of time, when I finally got out, right, when I left the federal system, the next thing you know, I'm on the street. And sobriety was an entirely different subject. I got to a halfway house, and these geniuses, as I walked in the front door, these people literally said to everyone who was coming in, well, due to this health thing going on, and I'm not going to mention the name of the health thing because YouTube will then bury this video and no one will ever see it. The algorithm doesn't like hearing that, the name of that C+ math thing, right? So, but because of the C+ math thing, they had a policy where they weren't drug testing. And these people tell you that when you show up. So I wasn't at that halfway house for 2 days before I saw people doing things they shouldn't be doing. And without fail, all of them ended up getting sent back to prison without the need of drug testing. Because when you start to do stupid things, it begets more stupid things. And these people started out, sneaking off to the bathroom and snorting a little something, or going into the room and having somebody stand at the, and watch while they snuck a couple of hits or did whatever. And it wasn't, 2 weeks later that these guys were snorting stuff on the table in the chow hall, because it's just sort of that kind of a thing, right? Well, all of a sudden I came out of a prison and into this world where temptation was everywhere. It was all over the place. And I had gotten sober with the use of daily affirmations. I did them all the time. I used to sit at that sink and look into that pounded piece of metal that they used as a mirror. And I would say, you know what? You're not a loser. Not going to live the rest of your life like that. You're a winner. You're never doing this again. This is it. You're clean. You're a new creation. And I would do this every single morning. And there were times like the holiday season where I was white knuckling it from basically November, from right around Thanksgiving until New Year's, where I was looking in the mirror every 45 minutes. Sometimes I was looking in the mirror every 2 minutes. Honestly, there were days where it was everything I could do to get away from that mirror, because I had to continually tell myself, you're not going to be that guy. And then over the course of the next 2 or 3 years, I started feeling bulletproof. I didn't feel like I needed to do that anymore. But when I got to the halfway house with my entire future laid out in front of me and the plans for the lifeboat and all of these things happening, my thought processes started to go in the wrong direction. And the guy who helped me get sober, Q, was really, really diligent about pounding this into my head. Really pay attention to the things that you're thinking in your head, to those inner monologues that you're doing every day. Because when they start saying things like, boy, you know what? It would be fun just to do that. I'm not going to take the risk, but boy, man, it would be fun just to get high this one time. I mean, I'm not going to do it. People, when you start doing that kind of talk in your head, you've already relapsed. You're in that process. I don't mean you're going to use, but you are relapsing. Relapsing is the process that leads to you doing drugs or alcohol. The good news is that until you pick up that drink, right, you can pump the brakes. Once you crack the bottle and start drinking, obviously, you've gone past the point of no return. But right up until the very end, you have the ability to right the ship, so to speak, providing you're paying attention to the things that, you're saying in your own head. And every time I started feeling like, oh, you know what? I remember at one point walking into a closet at the halfway house because I was assigned the duty of mopping the kitchen area after every meal. And the closet was big. It's about the size of my office and had all kinds of office supplies in there. And I walked into that closet, and for the first time in probably 2 years, I walked into a cloud of heroin smoke. Somebody had been in that closet not 25 minutes, 15 minutes before I walked in there, and you could smell it. It was like, it was overwhelming. And I remember every single nerve ending in my body lighting up. And instantly, my first thought, unfortunately, was not, oh, this is awful, I got to get out of here. You know what I mean? Go upstairs, talk to yourself. And I started going, oh man, that smells good. Like that was the first thought. And 20 or 30 of the exact same kind of thoughts later, I remember going, holy, this is not good, right? This is bad. This is glorification. This is all kinds of things that don't lend themselves well to staying sober. And I went and stood at that mirror like it was day 3 and started talking to myself. And it was right back to daily affirmations. You know what? You're not going to do that. You know what that stuff will lead to? Handcuffs. You start doing that, you want to go back to prison? Huh? You want to lose the cell phone? You want to lose the ability to FaceTime your daughter every day? My dad was still alive at that point, and I was getting to FaceTime my father and talk to him and see him. And all of those things started to weigh on me. And instantly, people, I was able to write that shit. I was able to turn this around. And I'm not telling you this as a brag, I promise you, because it took me 3 decades to get to the point where I started to realize that this is what it took. But I'm telling you this from an instruction standpoint, because I promise you that when you start to glorify the things that you used to do, it's like Mark says, what you need to do is concentrate on the crap that stuff brought you. This is the power of self-talk, right? Is it your best friend or is it your worst enemy? If you start at that point in your head going, oh man, you remember the day I got arrested, right? I remember there were 6 different agencies and there was a helicopter with a guy in a gun standing on the strut. I'm not even kidding. It was like something out of a movie. And I remember that moment of realization that I'm going to prison, and I'm going to prison for a long time. Like, this is it. And as I started to sit and concentrate on those things, one thing's got nothing to do with the other. I mean, not literally, right? I mean, but I start thinking about all of the awful times that took place while I was using. And the next thing you know, you're going, yeah, I don't want any of that crap. Seriously. I mean, I'm in a halfway house. Life is not great, but it beats the hell out of prison. I am not going back there. That is never going to happen to me. And that's me standing in the mirror, doing it as literally an affirmation. And the funny thing is, it's probably the only place on earth where you can do that. And the person standing outside the bathroom is not freaked out that you're talking to yourself, because there's a pretty good chance he's going in there to do the same thing. This is a place where people are spending a good deal of time talking to themselves. And there's power in it, people. When you start to control your inner monologue, when you start to control self-talk, you can change the destiny of your life. You really can write your own ticket. Every single day when you get up, you're going to have a conversation with yourself. Whether you realize it or not, this happens every single day. This is the reason that I hammer on the stupidest little points. And people are going to roll their eyes right now because they go, you know what he's about to say, right? Yeah. Make your bed. Make your bed. Why? Because it sets the tone. In my head, while I'm doing it, I'm going, you know what? Never used to do this. Never used to do this. And when my inner monologue, when boredom, you realize, people, that boredom is an enemy of sobriety, right? When you're bored, you're in trouble. It's a pretty good idea to have something to be doing at all times, especially when you first get sober, because when you get bored, you give your brain a chance to start running wild. You give your brain a chance to start thinking about all kinds of things that you're no longer controlling, right? Think about it logically. If you're right in the middle of doing something, right? You've got something in front of you and you've got some tools and you're working, your brain isn't off in another place. You're concentrating on what you're doing, right? There's a focus. The term is myopic, right? Myopic means that you can focus on one thing at one time. There's no other, and people who are myopic only focus on one thing, right? It's the ability to exclude everything else and focus on one thing. We all know somebody who's like that with sports, right? We all have that one friend that when you talk to, you say, hey, how you doing, man? Can you believe that the Giants just traded so-and-so for so-and-so? Myopic. Doesn't matter what you talk about. He's going to bring that conversation back to football. Well, people, if you start to organize your day in such a way that you don't have time on your hands, that you're not sitting there, there's an old cliche, right? That idle hands is the devil's workshop. And there is a reason that that's a cliche. As we say so many times, cliches don't become cliches because they're wrong. Cliches become cliches because they're right. So when I find myself these days, when there's not something going on, I'm going to find something to do. I'm never just going to sit around and watch TV. I'm never just going to sit around and do nothing. Get yourself into something, and you will find that the talk in your head will start becoming a positive weapon instead of something that is going to be a negative influence. Because I promise you, the worst enemy that you have in your sobriety, worse than your friends who still party, is your brain if you let it run wild. The worst enemy that you can possibly have for sobriety is your brain telling you you're a loser, your brain telling you that you're no good. On last night's live feed, there was a couple of comments about people who said, you know what? I can't stand looking at my own reflection in the mirror. And if we had $1 for every time we've heard this, I assure you this is not unique. In fact, it is the norm. Most people who first get sober don't like their own reflection in the mirror. Change that. If you start looking at yourself in the mirror and doing daily affirmations, if what you're looking at in the mirror when you look back is you gritting your teeth and saying, I am never doing that again, it'll be really surprising how fast you start to groove to that process. Does it feel weird when you first do it? You betcha. You bet. It feels ridiculous. It feels like a Saturday Night Live sketch. But I'm not telling you this stuff to make you uncomfortable. I'm telling you this stuff because it works. You don't think that there's a reason that people have written book after book after book on affirmations, right? That there aren't websites dedicated to daily affirmations and suggesting certain ones to you. I'd start with, you're a winner, right? Look in the mirror and go, I'm a winner. I'm a winner, right? My days of doing drugs are over. I'm a winner. My days of losing are over. Hey, people, I'm seeing my bobbleheaded partner and his nephew. Very cool. Joe Birdwell, by the way, good to see you, bud. Good to see you. Big fan of Joe Birdwell. I love my Arlie Emmy inner monologue. I believe that's the guy from Full Metal Jacket, correct? He played the drill sergeant in Full Metal Jacket. He did some commercials where he was always calling people jackwagons. That's where I got that, people. That's where the term, we use that a lot on the lifeboat. I love that. That guy was great. He was really absolutely amazing. Good story behind that, too. He was brought in as a consultant on that movie and basically ran off the actor that was supposed to be playing that part and decided he was going to become an actor that day. But yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It really is. It's that kind of inner monologue. It's that puff your chest out, grit your teeth a little bit, and start talking to yourself in such a way that you're not going to let negative talk control your life. Because I promise you it has. If you've been on dope for 10 years, it's because negative self-talk has run your life for a decade. Seriously. If you get up every morning and say, I'm a winner, I'm going to stay sober, you think you're going to be getting high by noon? Because you're not. You're not. Ants, the number one enemy, right? A-N-T, automatic negative thoughts, crawling all over your brain, telling you you're not good enough, telling you that this is going to end up just like the last time. People, if you can't stop the ants, if you find that you can't make the automatic negative thoughts stop, you know what you do? You call in reinforcements. Honestly, you get in touch with somebody who's part of your support family, and the lifeboat, everybody is part of your support family. Reach out to someone and say, you know what, man, my inner monologue has been telling me I'm a loser all day long. Seriously, my brain just it'll shock you how much good it'll do when the guy you're talking to or the gal you're talking to goes, you're not a loser. You got to be kidding. You're not a loser. What, I mean, you're not out there with a bottle in your hand right now. What are you doing? You're calling me because you want to stay sober. It makes you a winner all day long. In my book, that makes you a winner. And when you hear somebody start saying that, a funny thing will happen. You'll start to believe it. And when you start to believe it, you'll start to say it. Your inner monologue, right? Your self-talk will start having a positive effect on who you are. People, this is not psychobabble, right? This is not killing time for an hour and talking about cool things. This is nuts and bolts sobriety 101. For real. And I think that we've spent a lot of time talking about the negative aspects of this, but the positive aspects of this are what's going to change your life. Plain and simple. If you're not your best cheerleader, you're your worst enemy. Did you get that? You're either your biggest cheerleader or you're your worst enemy. There's no third option. So You need to start to control that. And it gets back to something that Mark says all of the time, right? And there's a cool name for this, people. If Mark or myself were smarter, we would tell you what the law of physics exactly is. But there's a law in physics, somebody's name or something, that says two things can't occupy the same space at the same time, right? Mark did an entire show once talking about multitasking. It's such a popular phrase in modern culture, right? We're going to multitask. So I got 6 things I need to think about at the same time. Not going to happen. It's not going to happen to anybody, right? Einstein couldn't do it. You can't do it. Your brain can think one thought at one time. So if automatic negative thoughts start running your brain, logically, what do? We replace them with a positive thought. And in the beginning, that may be difficult to do. So what do? You say it out loud. Because when you say it out loud, it will have 5 times the power that it will have if you just try to think it. If you just try to think it, the ant might be a little tougher. It might run off that positive thought, or you'll go, you know what? I'm a good person. I am. I'm a good person, right? I'm doing the right thing. Man, I've tried this so many times, though. Every single time I try it, I end up the same way, and it'll take over. I promise you. Now go stand in that mirror and look at yourself and say, grit your teeth, man. I'm a winner. Start raising your voice a little bit. Feels weird? Yeah, it feels weird, but it beats addiction. It beats the guilt that you're going to feel when you come on the boat and you say, you know what? Yesterday, I let the negative thoughts run wild and I ended up getting drunk, or I ended up getting high. That is a feeling that stinks. I'd rather deal with the slight discomfort of looking in the mirror and going, I'm a winner. I'm a warrior. I'm not doing this. My new life started 6.5 years ago, and I'll be damned if I'm going to do anything that throws that away. I'm a winner. I'm a winner. Raise your voice. Feels silly. And right around the time you start to get to the point where that feels comfortable, trust and believe you will have this under control. Honestly. And when you get it, that we talk all of the time about how life is good until what? Until we jump the track, right? Until the processes of the brain no longer are working the way normal people's do, or the way that they're supposed to. Once the train jumps the track, then we've got the reward center of our brain rewarding us for trying to kill ourselves. We've got the reward center of our brain rewarding us for trying to end up in prison. Doesn't make any sense, right? But it's a stone cold fact. We talked about it last night, right? We explained exactly how this works. So your mission from the day that you say, I don't want to do this anymore, from the day that you say, I've had enough, your mission is not just to stay sober. That's the ultimate goal, right? But the mission is to get that train back on the track. You understand? Because once those wheels get back onto those rails, life starts to go on autopilot. Now really incredible things start happening. Money starts stacking up in bank accounts, right? People who didn't talk to you start trusting you. That guy that wouldn't call you to ever move a couch, you're his first call. All of these things begin to happen once you right the ship. Mixed metaphor. Once you get you get the idea. Once you get the brain back on track, right? Once that happens, beautiful things start to pile up. And you know something, people? You ever have one of those runs of bad luck and everything is like a domino effect, right? One thing clicks and it just goes, and they start falling over. And you go from, I'm having a tough time, to, man, the game is over, right? The boat has hit the iceberg. Everything in life is over. I am done. I am screwed up. The exact opposite thing happens when you start doing everything right. I told the story at least 5 times that I can remember. But going into my wallet and going, holy crap, there's like $65 in here. People, I can truthfully tell you that for decades, I could tell you exactly how many dollars I had at all times, because that dollar equaled a certain weight of heroin. And the only reason it was in my pocket is because the drug dealer hadn't showed up in the parking lot yet. If I had money, it was getting ready to be spent on drugs. And I don't care how much of it I had. You know, truthfully, money had zero meaning to me other than something you could trade for drugs. It wasn't about money. It was about something I could trade for drugs. These days, money has a completely different concept, right? And it starts to stack up. I went in for counseling, my counseling session last week with my my federal ordered, woman. I've told you this story about this counselor a lot. But I went in and they said, I don't think you've made your copay this week or this month. Did you want to take care of that today? I said, sure. I said, does it matter, whether I put this on plastic or do you guys want cash? She's like, do you have the cash on you? And I didn't even think before I said it, but I go, yeah, you stop doing dope. That stuff kind of stacks up. And everybody in the room, people sitting there reading magazines, everything else, the whole place just started to laugh because every single person in that building is in recovery, right? There's nobody in that building who's not in recovery. If I had said the same thing in the world, right, people would have looked at me like I was crazy. But the people in there were all going, yeah, you know what? I got money in my pocket. Everybody there. It really is a phenomenon, people. Start getting control of your inner monologue. Start dictating to your brain the way it's going to be, instead of letting your brain dictate to you the way it's going to be. You understand the difference? Because that is guaranteed what's happening. You're either ruling your brain or your brain is ruling you. You understand the problem with that, right? Number one, there's a great book called You Are Not Your Brain. Totally worth reading. You are not your brain. You're not. You're not. The brain is the control center, right? Yes, in that it makes your heart beat. It guarantees blood circulates, does a lot of very important things. Unfortunately, it does not have your best interest at heart almost all the time. Truthfully. I mean, there are times where it does great, like, oh my gosh, that's hot. I'm not going to put my hand on it, right? That's good stuff. But your brain, once that train has left the tracks, your brain has one mission. It's to screw you up. You think I'm playing? If you've been doing this long enough, I'm telling you the truth. Your brain wants to get fed. And if you're new to the lifeboat, you may not have heard us talk about this, but the part of your brain that demands to be fed drugs is the lower part of your brain. It's way down here at the back, right? And it's got a nickname. They call it the reptilian brain. I'm not a fan of that term, but it is literally the part of your brain that says, you better jump away from that, this car's going to hit you, you're going to die. It's also the part of your brain that says heart needs to beat, pupils need to dilate, right? So the people that say, I'm just going to, I can overcome, this time I'm going to take the medication how I'm prescribed, or this time I'm only going to drink, 2 beers and I'm not going to drink anything more than that, right? Or I'm only going to get high once a week. For all of you who have that current thought and you believe that that's going to work, I will just say, do this. Make your heart stop for 4 seconds. Don't go any longer than that because bad things happen when your heart doesn't beat. But just stop your heart from beating. Give it about 4 seconds, right? Do you think there's any chance of that happening? Of course not, right? It's an automatic response of the body. So is that desire for drugs. It comes from the same part of the brain, everything else. The power comes from understanding that. Now, the only way to beat that is to bombard your brain with thoughts that are positive and with actions that are going to make sure that your life changes. And the way you do that is you continue to do self-talk again and again and again. Every single day, you're going to tell yourself you're a winner or your brain is going to make you a loser. It's just how it is. You're either going to take control of that self-talk or it's going to jump the track and you're going to be right back where you are. All the great cliches, right? I do drugs. I'm allergic. I break out in handcuffs. For me, that's how it ends. You heard Alan Ballantyne's interview. He said, I'm not, I never stole. I'm not that guy. I was. Alan would continue to work and work hard and work hard and work hard. But think of the money, right? He talked about $30,000 in what? 60, 90 days, right? That's the train off the track, people. Now look at Alan Ballantyne. Dropped a third of his body weight, right? Got a great relationship with his daughter. His mom and dad are proud. He's right with God. There is nothing going on in this man's life that isn't cool. And I haven't spoken to him today, but I would say there's a really good chance that he hit his target weight. If he didn't, we're a couple of days away. I'm about to get that picture of the scale, right? Because he sends it to me as he hits each goal, which is awesome, right? But Alan will tell you, Anybody here that is fighting the fight and winning will tell you that they took control over that inner monologue. They took control over that self-thought. And if it starts running wild, and it will, no matter how good you are at this, it happens to me. You know what happens? I call Mark, or when we get on in the beginning of this, he'll go, how you doing? I'll go, I'm in a rotten place, man. My head isn't good, and it's been on both feet. He said it to me before. I'm just not in a good place. Yeah, let's talk. Right? If you can't get your inner monologue, if you can't get that self-talk under control, call in reinforcements. Simple as that. This is nuts and bolts 101, how I stay sober, how you stay sober, how everybody stays sober. I promise you, if you do not control your self-talk, you will get high. Pretty cut and dry stuff. All right? Everybody with me? Can I get a nod? Okay. This is the part of the show where I will turn this over to my bobble-headed partner who's spending a little time hanging out with his nephew. For those of you who are new to the boat, you do realize I see Mark through the entire thing, right? As we're doing this, I've got this big screen with Mark on it right there, which, so it's always cool. I either see Heather come in and give him a kiss, or, his, who's ever visiting will walk through the screen. Very cool. I like seeing the family thing. Mark, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Yeah, my little nephew's been over here with us for a few hours, giving my sister and her husband some time to go be, couples.
Yep.
Very
cool.
Going to the movie and all that kind of stuff. Okay. But yeah, no, I think this is a great subject. I think it's one of those things, like you said, there's a few subjects that we can just pick out and be like, this is important, right? I mean, this is like a foundational block of importance type of thing. And this is one of those, in my opinion. And again, guys, everybody's road is different. But this is one of those things that we all do, whether we think we're doing it or not. You may not even know you're doing this. You are. You're doing it every day. When you wake up, you don't have to go look at the mirror, but I promise you, you're doing this in your head. I mean, this is what happens, right? I mean, that's how you got to really try to stay sober. It starts with you every morning. That's why Tommy makes his bed every morning, even if you don't want to. That's why, I do certain things that I do here at my house when I don't want to. I sleep every day. I try to take care of those kinds of things because it, not only is it something that's productive, but it's something that makes you feel like you accomplished something. So, whatever that is, it can be small, big, whatever, it doesn't matter. But I really do think this is a very, very good thing. And I do think it's one of those things that if people work on, they can get really good at. Bye, bud. I love you. Sorry. real life.
That's good stuff.
But yeah, it's also, when you're doing this, it's also a piece of self accountability, because you got a reference point already in your mind with this. Once you start doing this every day and you recognize you're doing this, so not only are you able to be held accountable by people that's around you, but when you really start having good success in recovery, you're going to start holding yourself accountable well before somebody else even knows you're having an issue, most of the time. And one of the biggest ways to get there is knowing that you're having an issue and being able to come, like me and Tommy talk to each other, right? That's one of the biggest things that people have to understand is if you can recognize when you're in a bad spot, we've already showed you the roads and the people you can go to, and people, and who you can go to in your real life. They can help you, and leave that pride at the door. I mean, it's just not, just don't even, there's so many things that we did bad when we were in the addiction, and just full fledged, well, and I hate to say it, it's going to sound really bad, but I don't have no pride left. It's gone. I hold pride in what I'm doing now, but prior to, I don't have bad pride is what I'm trying to say. I got pride for the good things that are happening. And it used to, I'd take pride and credit for anything that was happening that society might have thought was good or whatever. But now I start to realize what is good, and you grab a hold of that, and you really do. You will start changing your life. It will change your life almost immediately. And yeah, if you get up and you go look in the mirror, yeah, you have nothing else but yourself there. So what are you doing? You're talking to yourself. You're talking to your, you know, that's what this whole topic is about, but it's your brain. You are trying to tell your brain to operate correctly the rest of the day. I mean, that's really what you're doing. And Tommy said, it's hitting on the bottom part of your brain. It's a little spot. That dopamine, there's what, 4 receptors, Tommy, or 5? And we talked about this yesterday. Serotonin hits on 14 of them. So, so when you're taking that stuff, that's really where it's getting processed, and that's how it does.
Where's my money?
Oh, it's in my wallet. Sorry. He wanted his $20 back.
You know what? I saw a comment that I got a comment on.
Go ahead.
This was a T-shirt back
in the day, and I actually at one time had this T-shirt, and it says reality is for people who can't handle drugs. Because there was a commercial in the 80s that talked about how drugs are for people who can't handle reality, and he said it's meant to be sarcastic, but it really is a great. If you think about it, you know what I mean? Reality is for people who can't handle drugs. Every single person on this boat can't handle drugs, right? Or alcohol. It's why we're here. So what we're left with is reality. The point of today's video is to tell you that very oftentimes we're like a leaf on a river, right? Reality is our life, and that we just sort of get taken with it in any direction that it happens to take us. The point is, emotionally, you can determine exactly where it takes you, right? Absolutely, you can take control of your life. There was a great comment, and I trying to remember who said it, but they said, if you do 10,000 hours of anything, that's enough time to master anything, like literally become a master. People, you know how much time we all spent pursuing drugs, doing the wrong thing? 10,000 hours is nothing. It's nothing. I spent so much more time than that. So you better be willing to put a little time in to shaping your future, because your destiny literally is in your own mind, not your own hands, but it's in your own mind. And that self-talk is going to determine what direction your life takes. You're either going to put up with the status quo, all of the things that you had over the duration of your time as an addict, or you're going to reshape your future into whatever you want it to be. It's your choice. And the crazy thing is, and the beautiful thing is, that you make that choice thousands of times a day, right? If I said to you right now, how many thoughts does your brain generate on a daily basis? We've said it enough on this channel that most people are going to go 60,000. Okay, well, how many of those 60,000 thoughts are trying to point you in the right direction? Truth be told, what do? Well, we let our brain go wherever we want. I spend a decent amount of time thinking about things that I really care about, right? If you eliminated the thought of watches and things of that nature, I'd probably have about 15,000 thoughts a day, because I tend to focus on that thing. But I spend a lot of my day being my own biggest cheerleader, right? Mark was talking about pride.
Yeah,
I think as humans,
pride's a huge one, man. It's a huge one.
And I think as humans, we guard ourselves. You know what I mean? Like, especially as you get sober, when someone says, "Hey, man, you're doing a great job," we instantly go to the, "Oh man, I hate it when people say that thing." Honestly, because it makes you feel like, I don't know, it's an uncomfortable feeling when you get praise.
It also leaves that door open to yourself when somebody says that to you. If you're doing a good job or not. So when they say that, you're holding yourself accountable, like right now.
Right.
You have to.
It's instant.
Yeah, you have that choice right then and there. You don't even know what's going to happen in your brain, but it does. And you're already making decisions whether or not to fall back into old habits as far as lying again, or you want to hold yourself accountable to the level that, well, I know I do, and I know Tommy does too. We're completely transparent, honest, straight up with anybody who wants to say a word to us. For me, that's key, right? Because if I start, even with I'm not talking about, I played a trick on you, kind of lie, that kind of thing. I'm talking about even the white lies that don't really necessarily mean a whole lot at the moment, but they'll build. And then you'll start going back into that same lifestyle. And that's just one of those, you got to self-talk yourself out of that. Pretty much is what I'm trying to say.
At all times.
Yeah, at all times. And if you've got any of that pride, that will definitely, it's gonna skew your direction on what you need to be doing. I had to leave mine just completely, and I had to stomp on it. You know what I mean? In a whole lot of different ways in my life. Like I said, my neck and back, so it wouldn't allow me to do certain things in my life. If I was still stuck in that pride, I'd be bitter and mad and doing whatever I was doing, right? But I refuse to get that way. I still try. I still do. I still find the positive in our lives. And when you do look at that and you go and you look in the mirror, and there was a graphic that when I was making the thumbnail, there was like a circle, and it was just showing what your brain actually does when it's doing that kind of thing. And it tells you the pattern of what it's doing. You get this thought, then you actually have a physical response before you even know what's even going on. It's amazing how that works. And Tommy talked about, your brain's always doing these things, and we can't control the thought, but we control the action after the thought. And that's where it comes in. That's where we have the power over our own self. Because it's like that little bad little devil on your shoulder just picking at you, right? And you got to say, hey, you got to look on your other shoulder and say, hey, go take that guy out for me real quick. And that's really what you got to do, or shake him off yourself. Something has to be done there. Call your friend, call your mama, call your mama's friend. I don't care, but do something at that moment. Find a book that you love. For me, if I need to inspiration, I got daily affirmations on my phone, but I also go to the Bible. I go to any of those kind of proverb type books that can really give you some sort of an overlook on what's going on. Honestly, those things, like Tommy called them cliches earlier, and that's exactly what they are. But he also said they're cliches because they work. That's why people kept saying those things. Those things work. It's just what it is. And I know people get embarrassed sometimes. I get it. I'm not telling everybody to go out here and just plow their business everywhere. There's a place and time for everything. But for me, I'm completely transparent. Now, if I walk up to somebody and I just met them, I'm not going to shake their hand and say, hey, yeah, I was stuck on pain pills for 20 years. How you doing? You're not going to do that. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. I hope you guys understand, because, when it comes down to that point where you're going to know whether you are able to say that or not, typically, if it's going to affect you in a negative way. Because we've talked about the job situation and what you need to say to your employers and stuff before, and that's all individual too. And I know I keep going back to everybody's recovery is a different road, at least a little bit. We might be on the same map, but we're taking a different road, all of us. And, but our destination is all the same. That's why we communicate with each other. Hey, how'd you deal with that? Well, I went down to Main Street and took a left. Okay, well, maybe I'll try that. I'll go down here to Main Street. Maybe I'll get to my destination quicker. So that's kind of what I'm saying. But yeah, so there's my rant.
Jacob Forrester, a great comment. Jacob said, you got to stay allergic to BS if you want to stay allergic to your habit. Talk about honest self-talk. People, that one, I hope you got that. You need to stay allergic to lies, or you're not going to stay allergic to your habit. And it's the truth. Once you start lying to other people, lying to yourself is next. I think that the fruit of addiction is lies. We've said it so many times, and Mark makes a really good point. It's you can say to yourself, I'm done lying to people. I don't lie. This, that. It starts with the smallest things, because you're once you get back onto once you right the ship, once you get the train back onto the track, it doesn't take much really to start getting it back into the wrong direction. It's the reason that I beat to death what I do in the morning. It's the reason that I tell people, you know what, you want to, and here's the thing. If you made your bed the entire time you were getting wasted, you were one of those functioning addicts who every day made your bed. Okay, well, obviously it's not quite as important. The reason that it's such a big one for me is because it was on the list of things that I literally never did. Right. So I made a list of things I was going to do as a sober person that I never, ever did. Right. You have to change the behaviors that you did. What you did compulsively for your behaviors, you need to change. Lying is the biggest one for everybody. In order to protect the addiction, the brain will tell any lie it needs to, right? And no matter what it has to say to ensure that you can stay an addict, it will do. So the first of those things has to be honesty. Hey, 100%. DJ Daddy-O, good to see you.
Good to see you,
Sorry,
DJ.
I didn't see you come in earlier.
Yeah, I would say this too, and this is just an example of what we're talking about. When my medicated assisted treatment outpatient program I go to get my Suboxone, we do our own drug screens, right?
That's just amazing.
It is, isn't it? When I first heard that, and they said, "Hey, just take a picture of it, shoot it over to us," and I'm like, I'm sitting here thinking, and this is going to go somewhere. Just give me a second,
sure.
Because there's another part to this I haven't never talked about. So you go in there and you do your business in the cup. You take a picture, and they started adding these other little strips for like fentanyl tests and stuff, which is whatever. And the main reason why this group does this is because of the insurance, right? The insurance are requiring these UAs. The group I'm with, they use that, okay, for self accountability. They really don't necessarily care if you test positive for anything, right? Unless it's medications that could really get you messed up, like death type of stuff. Right. They're looking at that and they're telling you, hey, in our group setting, the Zoom calls that we do once a week, if you test positive for something, they expect you to bring it up in group. Okay? If you don't, yeah, I mean, and that's they go to that. And why I say this is I'm going to give you an example of how we revert back to old habits. Even given the fact that everybody sitting in that room knows that there's not going to be any negative repercussions, even if they test positive for everything, we still had somebody that took a pink marker and marked where the line was supposed to be so it would test negative for the drug. And I know you see what I'm saying? This is what that was my whole reason for bringing this up again, because what happened there is he went back to his old ways of doing things because he thought that he didn't want to have to explain what he had been doing. Right? There was not going to be he was still going to get his Suboxone. He was still going to be okay. And most likely the group was going to be like, hey man, call us. We'll, try to help you out and that kind of thing. 'Cause that's what it is where I'm at. And our brains still do that to us. And if we don't do that self-talk and learn how to help mold our thought processes again and get control of our own brain to the point where, it can say whatever it says to us, but we got to be able to, put it in timeout if we need to.
Well, and that makes perfect sense, doesn't it? I mean, because the guy was already using, right? And it really is the perfect example, because here's how the dominoes start to fall, right? He has a misstep. He starts to use. And the next thing you know, you're right back to the old habits. Not, all right, look, I got nothing to worry about. How can I fake this thing? Your brain is going to go right back to what it has always known. And what we've known, and what did she say? 10,000 hours? That man became a master of deception and of lying. And just the first bump in the road, he went immediately back to what he knows best. And it's what we do. Saw another great one. I got to call this one out. Leisure Beast says, as of now, I am 49 years, 7 months, and 4 days sober from Vegemite. And I feel great. Well done, Leisure.
Love it.
Yeah, well done, Leisure. And we're within the last 5 minutes, so that flies. I like it. I absolutely like it. Yep.
That, guys, and I'm sorry I talk about those, my own group and stuff I do outside of this, but, I really have learned a lot. And here's the thing. I really wish that a lot of the outpatient programs out there were like that, because the place I came from, you were so afraid to make a mistake. This is a totally different way of thinking. And again, we're not going to get into a huge subject, but I just wanted to say that because I have learned a lot from, and what I'm saying is I didn't expect to learn a lot, right? I'd already been in recovery 9 years when I found this place. And I am still learning things on how we really should be thinking. And I don't think it's ever going to stop. I think I'm all, I say this, the second you think you know anything about anything is the second you stop learning. You do. You stop learning at that very second. And I see it in my space weather stuff and everywhere else I look. People just, if they think they're 100% right, they won't accept anything else coming at them, any kind of new thing with what we do here with addiction and stuff. They stop learning at that point. They're no longer learning nothing. They're not growing.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Good stuff. People, I will leave you with a parting thought. And it's one that I said earlier tonight, but I want you to really think about this. Your brain is going to be your biggest cheerleader or it's going to be your worst enemy. You are either telling yourself positive thoughts and directing where you're going to go, or you're going to get high. There's no gray area. There's no left. There's no right. Positive self-talk keeps people sober. Everybody. Now, they may not articulate that. They may not even know that they do that, but I'm telling you that everyone who stays sober does so because they are talking to themselves in a positive way. When that ant crawls up and says, man, I haven't gotten through one Christmas in 6 years, the other part of your brain goes, oh no, but you're getting through this one. Believe it. This is the one we get through. You either let the ants crawl all over you or you step on them, right? And there really needs to be a t-shirt that says sober from Vegemite. Just gonna say that. I think that's got potential. Alrighty, people, we are at the top of the hour. And you know what that means? That means, yes, well, there's that too. I am going to be here tomorrow night with my bobbleheaded partner at the same bat time and the same bat channel where we will be doing the same thing. Between now and then, there is but one assignment. That is to reach out and to try to save somebody. Cat in a basket, as promised. I am Captain Tommy Scoville on the other side of the glass.
Mark Wages.
We will see you tomorrow, people. God bless. Stay sober.